Yo, Ermac77, Juan Garcia from Ninja Pop News. And today I'm just going to do a quick review. I just finished my first playthrough of The Last of Us. Oh my god, this game is absolutely amazing. It's a contender for Game of the Year. That's the only thing I can say about it. This has been probably, honestly, I'll be totally honest with you. When I first heard about the game, I wasn't necessarily into it back in 2011. I was more into Skyrim and various other games. But last year, when I saw the tech demo for it at E3, the press conference at E3, it was absolutely fantastic. I liked what I saw. It wasn't. It just looked like a game that was going to be all QTEs, and Naughty Dog clearly just blew that right out the window. All the gameplay in there is absolutely fantastic. Um, as you guys know, I'm not going to give you too much of the story because I don't want to spoil it for you guys. But the game takes place 20 years into the future, where a fungal disease has taken over half of the population, and it's grown them basically into a form of zombies. Now you have three forms of these zombies. You got your runners, which are basically your zombies from 28 Days Later. They run fast, they mumble, and do all that stuff. Then you have your clickers. Now, clickers are zombies, are forms of runners that have been infected for so long that their heads sprout out, they're blind, they can't see, so they use this form of clicking like bats do to find you. So you have to stay down and you have to be very low and you got to be very quiet to take those guys down. And you cannot let them get to you because they're one-hit kills, which is something I personally love. I love the fact that they added that much difficulty into the game, where you have to be quiet or that's going to happen. And then you have the third one, the third and final zombie, which is called bloaters, which is they're the final form of these infected people. They've lost their eyesight. They're huge, but they're bloated with the spores in themselves. So so they can literally pick up pieces of spores from them and throw it at you, and you can become infected, which I thought was pretty cool. This game may very well be the new Resident Evil. I mean, I'm not going to say that as how could I put it, a bad thing. Because let's face it, Resident Evil freaking sucks now. Silent Hill hasn't been doing that good of a job either. But a game like this, which challenges you emotionally, mentally, is just absolutely fantastic. You have to do all these problem-solving skills. And I'm sorry, but Troy Baker this game should be nominated for an Oscar because Troy Baker himself has done such a great job as Joel. And God, I forget the other girl's name. I hate the fact that it's not coming across to me. But if you've guys seen the Avengers, she's the one Captain America saves in New York, and she was also in what's that show, Growing Pains, with Alan Thicke and all those other guys, and Leonardo DiCaprio. So you guys pretty much know who I'm talking about. She does a great job acting in that game as well. Man, God, the game itself is just absolutely fantastic. Also, another thing that I should bring up, that multiplayer. Now, normally I'm not a fan of specific games with a narrative like this having a multiplayer. For instance, I was against BioShock Infinite having a multiplayer. Thank God they didn't put it in, but I was purely against it. I was against Tomb Raider getting a multiplayer. It didn't need a multiplayer. But The Last of Us did not need a multiplayer. But it works. It's an absolutely fantastic multiplayer. It's called Factions. You choose between two teams. The survivors, the people who have, let's say, overrun a camp and now they're working for themselves to find supplies. And then you're working with the Fireflies. The Fireflies are a group of people who believe that there's hope and are searching for a cure for this disease. And what you do is you're set across specific maps and you're working stealthily kill off each other and gain parts to help out your clan. That to me, that's an awesome form of The Last of Us. If you guys have ever played Metal Gear Solid 4's multiplayer, it's sort of like that, but with better graphics. Now, one thing I do want to do real quick is a quick comparison because I know personally this is going to end up happening in the incoming months. The Last of Us is such a good game that it's going to stay in it. It's going to stick on the video game history as a beautiful piece of art. But what needs to happen is the comparison between BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us, and which game turns out to be the better one. Excuse me, because I got a little bit of a cold coming on because I slept with the fan in the window. But one thing I do want to bring up is with BioShock Infinite, I got a chance to do a third playthrough of it a few weeks ago, and it kind of lost its spark that I think I had for it the first time I played. I noticed a lot of not necessarily plot holes, because the storyline of the game is very sound, but it was more of its playability. When I played I was never a fan of the first BioShock because of its gameplay. The gameplay, the controls were so clunky, and I just couldn't get into the storyline that much. And the same thing with BioShock 2. And frankly, BioShock 2 didn't need a multiplayer. It just needed that storyline. But with BioShock Infinite, they did a lot of good things with that game. But the issue is it suffered from what the original 2 suffered from. Clunky controls. There's been a couple times where I press triangle to switch the weapon out or whatever, and it doesn't switch the weapon out for me. And that's a huge issue for me. Now, that's not to say that The Last of Us doesn't have its minor share of glitches. It's supposed to be a stealth game. So, not necessarily Joel, but Ellie could run right across a runner or a soldier, and she won't get hurt. They won't even notice she's there. So yeah, you do have that AI, that AI that's just sort of dumb sometimes. But it's only happened to me on a few occasions. Now with BioShock Infinite, it's happened to me on almost all occasions when I'm making the attempt to go stealth. Another thing I want to bring up is, of course, BioShock Infinite and The Last of Us are games featuring Troy Baker. Now, while BioShock Infinite I felt was just a one-man show, Troy Baker he rocked that game with his voice acting, the emotion he brought out to his voice, but he was the only person that was actually making any sense. The girl that was in BioShock Infinite, while you did care for her, I kind of got bored of her towards the end of the game, which is something else I want to bring up. I got really bored of the gameplay of BioShock Infinite, probably by the first half of the game. There it is. There you go. Now I can rest in peace. I got bored with BioShock Infinite by the first half of that game. And then especially with the final boss battle where you got two floating boats coming at you. I just thought that scene was just absolutely... It wasn't needed. That boss battle was really, really just drawn out. And by the time the Songbird came and destroyed the tower, it's like, oh, thank God, it's over. And then they shock you, and then they surprise you with that twist in the end. That right there was something that just kind of annoyed me. Now, when it came to The Last of Us, it's not necessarily because of the linear dissonant violence that it has in the game. It's more that you care for Ellie more than you do Anna, whatever her name is in BioShock Infinite. You see her and you want to take care of her because you know she may be the fate for humanity. And that to me is something that's just absolutely beautiful. And I'm just going to go, I got to tell you guys this. At times, this is not a fun game to play, The Last of Us. Not necessarily in that sense of shitty controls or bad voice acting or anything. No, everything about that is perfect. But the sheer depression of everything that Joel and Ellie lose on this journey can be overwhelming. But with that being said, The Last of Us is the perfect PlayStation exclusive. I mean, it's the perfect end. It's the perfect bang for the PlayStation 3 run-up. I mean, oh my God. Sony really dropped the ball in 2006, but they picked it back up in 2008, 2009, and they ran with it. They knew exactly what to do. They knew how to attract more people onto their system. And I gotta say, Sony, thumbs up to you guys. You guys have done a real good job with this game. Naughty Dog, you guys never cease to amaze me. Let it be from Crash Bandicoot when I was playing that when I was 5, 6 years old. Let that be the Jack series. I was playing that when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then let it be the Uncharted series when I was playing that when I was 16, 17, 18, 19, all the way up to 22, how old I am right now. So you guys, Naughty Dog, keep it up. Do what you're doing. You're doing such a good job. This game gets a 5 out of 5, a 10 out of 10, a 100 out of 100. God, if I could make love to this game, I probably would, which is sick. But if you guys can, go and pick up this game right now. It's like reading a good book. That's how good it is. And I love reading. Go buy this game. Buy it now or I will break you. Now, if you have any questions, anything you want to bring up to me about The Last of Us, any cool little Easter eggs, you guys know what to do. Find me on PlayStation Network, Ermac77. Find me on Twitter at DatFanman, DatFanman. Yeah, I changed my name. Go figure. Of course, on YouTube, you can follow us on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, Ninja Pop News. I'm Juan Garcia. If you don't have a controller, you are not having fun.